Welcome to this week's Whole Week Costa. I'm Jay here with Kev. We're back after about a month and a half off. We're just gonna blame it on his wedding.
Yeah.
Completely.
Yeah.
It's
all related.
Yeah. So tonight we're still talking about AFI's greatest 100 films. Tonight we're talking about Patton.
Yeah. So I want to set the expectations for this video because, and I don't want to say this in a negative way, but if somebody's listened to us for a little while and like us, this is probably gonna be a pretty good entertaining podcast. I feel like my goal though, especially with some of the older movies on the list, I think Patton is I would say is not one of the more obscure movies we're going to talk about. You know, I said before my goal was I would like to make like a fairly definitive video for some of these like lesser known movies that somebody could watch and like hear a pretty good conversation about. I don't know if we're going to totally do that for Patton. I think it's going to be entertaining, but I will admit I watched this movie about 3 weeks ago, so I don't have as many thoughts in my head as I usually do as far as quality analysis, but we're still going to say interesting things.
Oh, okay. So when I blanked. It's starring George C. Scott.
Yeah. So that's what we're talking about. We're going to have some interesting points. It's going to be entertaining.
Yeah.
But it's not going to be it like if you've never listened to us before, start with one of the other videos, like us, and then come back to this one.
So the screenplay is by Francis Ford Coppola, which I'm pretty sure. Kevin has no idea what else he did.
He makes wine, actually.
I meant direct.
Yeah.
I meant other than put his name on a wine.
Yeah, there's a Coppola wine brand. They make like a Syrah that's pretty good.
All right, so we're gonna go over movies he was involved with. You let me know if you've ever heard of these movies.
Yeah.
Patton.
Heard of it.
Yeah. Godfather.
Heard of it. I haven't watched it yet.
Don't know why. The Conversation.
Nope.
Okay. The Great Gatsby, 1974.
Not the 1974 Great Gatsby. I've seen the newer Great Gatsby. I really liked it.
The Godfather Part 2.
Haven't seen it yet.
Apocalypse Now.
Heard of it. Haven't seen it.
The Outsiders.
Heard of that as well.
Rumblefish.
No, never even heard of that.
No? Really?
Yeah.
Let's see. New York Stories.
No.
The Godfather Part 3.
Heard of it.
Bram Stoker's Dracula.
Yeah, but I haven't seen it.
Jack.
I don't know. I feel like I'm thinking of Wait, is it the movie with Robin Williams?
Yes.
That Jack? Okay. I think I've actually seen that, but I don't really know. I don't remember it. Yeah. But I've never seen parts of it.
Okay, so
I've heard of most of those movies. So this guy's
but you haven't seen him. One of the greatest like screenplay directors of all time.
I saw Patton. I drank his wine.
Yeah. Okay. So
did you drink his wine?
No, I don't drink wine. What am I, some hoopty-doopty man who drinks wine? So, Patton, if you haven't seen the movie, is about the rise and fall of one of the greatest American generals of all time. Mm-hmm. Patton starts off in the what's it called? The Afrikaans, the war in Africa, Northern Africa, during World War II, and he's already a general, and he takes over. He takes over some of the fighting, and it's basically him and his the competitiveness. It's him and the story of Omar Bradley, another general who was general of the armies, and he took over the Eastern Front. Patton thought the Eastern Front during World War II should have gone to him, but it went to Omar Bradley, and it went to Omar Bradley because like he was the GI general, like the men loved him, the press loved him, like he wore regular GI clothes, he fought with people, and he was the subordinate of Patton in the beginning of the war, and he rose in the ranks to become Patton's boss. And they actually in real life didn't like each other, but basically the movie shows the relationship between Patton and Omar Bradley as kind of jovial, and Omar Bradley's like basically throughout the entire movie, you don't have my job because you can't shut your mouth.
Yeah.
So in the middle of the movie, Patton slaps a soldier and people don't like him, and then basically they take away his command. and then they put him in this fake command, and then he doesn't mention the Russians and like the success of like World War II. So they take away that fake command, and then they're like, all right, well, we want to use you to go through Italy once we invade Europe. So he's like, all right, I'm going to go through it, but they want to give. He thinks they want to give all the awards to the Montgomery, who was the English general, who's basically one of the leaders of the whole thing. So he like disregards like what they say to him, and he takes Sicily like in a day or two, but they don't have enough like supply lines and any men, so he loses command again. So then like after a year, they finally give him another command, and he like rushes across Germany, and they're like, you have to slow down, like no one can catch up. So they take away his command, and then they're like, all right, now we're like a month later, they're like, all right, we're gonna give you your command, and then they're like, you're great, but you don't listen and you don't shut your mouth. And then what they don't have in the movie is this last couple of days where he's actually in charge of Germany, and he gets into like a low speed car accident, and he breaks his neck and dies. Like that's the story of Patton. Yeah.
I know.
Well, he dies like 4 days later because he breaks his neck in like a low speed accident. Yeah. So the Patton is up until his very last days. So he thinks he's gonna go to. After VE Day, he thinks he's going to go to Japan,
right?
But they're like, no, you literally can't shut your mouth. You don't know how to act. So you're going to be a general, but you're not going to take any more commands. So he like gains and loses like 3 or 4 commands throughout the entire war because he's just such a butthead.
Yeah, I mean, this movie might be more relevant today than it was when it was made because there's so many social issues. I mean, on the one hand, it's about I guess just a biopic about Patton, but his life is so I don't even know because it's like I thought of 3 or 4 different topics while you were summarizing the movie. You know, I mean, I guess the slap is the moment that I was thinking about talking about most when I was watching the movie.
Well, what Kevin's talking about is he slaps people that have what they call shell shock at the time, which is PTSD. Like they won't go in there, and they're in the infirmary, and he basically slaps them with gloves, and he's like, I won't have cowards under my command. And people are like, well, you can't treat soldiers like that.
Yeah.
And and like he feels it's disrespectful to the men out there that are fighting that, and the men that are actually injured, that they say they can't go fight when there's people that are shot.
But it's one of those things like, so if you try to see from his perspective, like he's not wrong from his perspective. Like I don't think he's trying to like necessarily like I mean there's better ways you could do what he was trying to do. But it's not like he's a hypocrite. Like, I mean, you see him in the movie just go in the thick of battle himself. So he is a warrior. He is not afraid of battle. And he just doesn't understand that other people are. That other people aren't like him. But he wants people to basically be as brave and as strong as he is in battle. But like for some weird reason, battle's like his natural element. Like that's like, one of the things in the movie, and I'm assuming this is him in real life too. He thinks he's this reincarnated ancient warrior. Right? Yeah,
he does. He did, and he wrote, and he like in real life he quoted his poems. Like he would like he would say a poem, and they're like, it's beautiful. Who wrote that? George Patton. Like hit me.
But so if you think of him as like as like a man of conviction, like I mean, when he shames people for not being as brave as him in battle, I mean, I don't know if you look from that perspective, like what he's saying isn't necessarily wrong, but I mean, the rest of us, not everyone's like him essentially, but I feel like this is a great, like this really plays into some of the social justice stuff today. Like if something like that happened today, like I don't think he would get a second chance. Like his just life and career would be over. Like he'd be like in today's cancel culture. Like if if you speak out and speak your mind and do something that not everyone else agrees with, like he would just be done forever. Like he wouldn't even be a general anymore. Like he'd be discharged from the army.
Yeah. Well, let's talk about the actual movie.
Yeah.
So a couple errors that like people really noticed. They didn't actually use any Sherman tanks, which was the main battle tank in World War II. They used these like next like generation tanks from like the 50s and 60s. I forget, they're like, and then the Russian or the German tanks were like T-72s from like the next generation. So they didn't use, even though he's known as the world's greatest tank commander of the armored division, they didn't use one Sherman tank in the entire production of the movie.
That's interesting.
Which even today, like, it's very hard to find like a Sherman tank. Like, they have a couple. They used one for Fury, like an actual, and they used other ones, which is really weird that they didn't use like correct tanks or even like mocked up like fake tanks to make them look like the Shermans. But this is, like, just in my opinion, like, it's a war movie. They don't show a lot of battles and everything because it's the life of Patton. It's not. It's a war movie, but it's not a war movie. It just happens to take place during, like, his life is World War II. But, like, in my opinion, it's, like, one of the greatest war movies of all time, And it doesn't glorify the man.
Yeah.
It does, but it doesn't. It's like... It goes, he was great, but here's all the stupid shit. Like, you kind of don't like him as a character. You're like, why would you do that? Just shut your mouth, But I mean, it just makes him a man. It doesn't make him a character. It makes him they show him as a man.
Yeah. Well, he's the kind of character, and he's the example of why. I feel like there's certain literary characters that like can't exist in real life, and he's like one of them. Like he's Like my two of my favorite characters are, obviously Stannis Baratheon and Javert from Les Mis, because they're just people that are 100% sure that they are right and 100% sure of their convictions. Like Javert is he's just a cop, and he's gonna bust criminals, and it doesn't matter the extenuating circumstances, it doesn't matter the moral ambiguity. The law is the law. If you don't follow the law, it's going to arrest you. And once you've broken the law, you're a criminal and you're irredeemable. You're just a criminal.
Yeah. Here's the thing. Something great about his character is, and the way they wrote the movie, like some of the things in the movie, they actually toned down because it's not believable in real life. But some of the things they like toned up because just to make it like cool, just to dramatize it. Yeah. So it's like the stuff that they toned down, like that's kind of cool. Like this is a real person. Yeah. It's like a perfect example because it's fitting to the time he was in. Like he's a guy writers can't create. Yeah. Just like Hitler is a bad guy that writers can't create. Like you can't create men like that in your mind. Like there's bad guys out there that are in movies and you go, they're not as bad as Hitler. Like, if Hitler ate people, like if he was a cannibal on top of all the bad stuff, you couldn't create that. Like, you can't create that. Like, and then Patton's the same way. Like, if he could fly, like if you add one more attribute, you're like, oh, yeah, you know what I mean? Like, it's one of those things that he's a crazy person.
So Holy Casa is firmly against Cannibal Hitler. Also Hannibal Hitler. That would be pretty fucked up too.
Yeah.
But
like his brother.
Yeah. But just like these type of like completely righteous like what's the Stannis Baratheon? I guess it's the Davos quote that there's nothing, or is it a George R. R. Martin quote? I guess all the same, but. There's nothing quite as fearsome as a truly just man or whatever. Like, that's what Patton was. He was sort of like anachronistic. I mean, he didn't really fit the time period anymore, even by 1940 standards. You couldn't treat a soldier like he treated his soldiers, but you could before. Like if he were a commander, if he were a cavalry commander 100 years before. No one would give a shit about him slapping that guy.
Right, he probably would have shot him.
Yeah, was that true? True.
Yeah. And everyone was like, yeah, that's coward. It's just how times change. You want to hear something crazy? Because the entire movie, I might get the names wrong, but the entire movie they talk about him fighting Rommel. Yeah. You know what I mean? And then like Rommel's like the best. Yeah. Rommel's one of the best. Did you know that even though he was a Nazi, Rommel still was considered like a national hero?
Oh, really?
Yeah, like he was a leader. I mean, he was a Nazi and everything, so he's automatically a bad guy.
Yeah.
But people like loved him because like he was actually like a good general.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? He didn't like commit war crimes and shit like that. Like I mean, he did, but he didn't go out of his way to create atrocities. He just did. He did. He went by the law of the land. You know what I mean? And like his son was a prominent politician in post-war Germany, where Hermann Goering's brother, I think it was Goering, like actually saved Jews, and like he did a lot of good stuff. But because he was like he did stuff outside of Germany, like people because of who his brother was, they shunned him, and like that was like the end of his family. Like he's like, oh, I can't even have children. You know? It's so bad.
Well, it's the same thing in America too. I mean, you know, there's Confederate generals that people still respect, like, you know, General. What the hell's his first name? General Lee.
Robert E. Lee.
Robert E. Lee. I don't know why that blank on it. But yeah, like Robert E. Lee, I think most people would agree was not an evil man, even though he fought on the side of slavery. Like,
he didn't. Well, he did, but he didn't.
Yeah, that's what I mean. He didn't fight for slavery, but he fought on that side.
He fought because Virginia was his home.
Exactly.
You know what I mean? Virginia was his home. He has to fight for Virginia. Like, like that was like pride in him. That's why he did it. But like that's the difference. People don't know that's the difference between Virginia and West Virginia. One was like pro Confederacy and one wasn't. So they split. But yeah, like he didn't fight for slavery. He fought for his home. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
He felt like the War of Northern Aggression was the War of Northern Aggression. You know, changing like his side. So like he fought for pride. But like, did you know? Fun fact again, that there were more West Point graduates in the Confederate than there were in the.
I think I did hear that before.
The Union, yeah.
We just had them raw manufacturing.
Yeah,
so
we had.
That's pretty much how we won World War II as well.
Yeah, we had the raw manufacturing, and we had what's it called? General Sherman.
Yeah. Who
went down there, destroyed their infrastructure. And they were like, all right, let's go back home. And like they're like, we can't do anything. Like you ripped up our railroads and you tied the ties around trees. Like you destroyed our infrastructure. And believe it or not, fun fact, the South still hasn't recovered from the Civil War in many areas.
Huh. Yeah, is Sherman like 100 years prior Patton? Like is he like?
Oh yeah, definitely.
Like just
the tanks that Patton were Sherman's.
Yeah,
he's that big of a general.
Yeah,
they went down there. They said raise the South, and he went okay. Yeah. And like he would sow fields with salt. He would light like other fields on fire. He had the men like ripping up railroad tracks so they couldn't move their stuff around. He raised the entire South, and they were like, "All right, good job." And then we won because they couldn't do anything.
Yeah, I mean, again, just an old timey warrior, you know, more than anything. I don't know, but yeah, it was the other Patton thing. You know, you could use that as an example of the problem with politics, because here you have the best guy not commanding the best troops because, or I guess you don't have the best guy commanding the best troops because of his things he says. Like, you can make an argument, who cares what he said? Who cares if he pissed off? If he can win battles and win the war, that saves lives. That's the most important thing. Who cares if he pisses some people off? Or who cares if he slaps that one soldier when he could potentially save tens of thousands of soldiers by bringing a swifter end of the war?
Right.
But that's not how the world works, at least in the last 100 years or so.
Bureaucrats in politics.
Yeah. I guess probably never really worked that way.
Well, this thing he said at the end of the movie where like he didn't trust the Russians. So at the end of the movie,
right.
Yeah, at the end of the movies after VE Day, they're like, "Oh, the Russian premier or whatever wants to have a drink with you," and he goes, I'm not gonna have a drink with no Russian son of a bitch.
Yeah.
And the guy's like shaking. He's like, go ahead, tell him. And like they speak in Russian. And he's like, and the guy tells him, and he's like, oh, he thinks you're a son of a bitch too. He's like, well, I'll have a drink to that. And then he tells people, and then it was recorded where he goes, we should just go up through Russia and fucking beat them too.
Yeah.
And people are like, you can't say that, they're our allies. But 4 years later, you realize, oh, he was right.
Yeah. Also, you can't invade Russia. I mean, two people have tried now. Didn't work on it.
Several people have tried.
well, I guess two most famous, Napoleon and Hitler. But,
the Japanese.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, did the Japanese won a war in Russia?
Yeah, but during World War II.
Yeah. But this was it the Rus? I don't know.
Yes. Yeah. But that was late 1800s or whatever.
But that was a big destabilizing factor in Russia, was that they were beaten by an Asian power.
Well, that part of Russia doesn't have a lot of infrastructure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But as far as actually invading Russia, like trying to conquer Russia, it's pretty much impossible.
To invade, conquer, you have to conquer the capital. Yeah. Make the Russia, and make the Moscow, and see if you could do that. See if you could take the Kremlin. You're not.
Yeah.
And
so
Russia will total war. They'll have 3-year-olds out there with rifles.
Yeah.
They don't have much infrastructure or money or really anything, but what they do have is pride.
I always love I feel like we're gonna get off topic from here, but there was a show that was it's maybe like 10 years ago, and it was it was a show where they challenged different engineering teams to make projects out of scrapyard stuff.
Oh, the Junkyard Wars.
Junkyard Wars.
Yeah, I love that show.
There was a great episode.
It was definitely more than 10 years ago.
Yeah, maybe. There was a great episode where they had a Russian team, an American team, and a British team, and they wanted them to make basically a vehicle that could go over this obstacle course, go over a mountainous terrain, and then go over water. So the British team made this very British looking car, and it was this little efficient car that they steal up for the water and stuff. The Americans got a fucking pickup truck and had these huge wheels on to get over the mountain stuff, and the Russians put wheels on a boat. it was the most stereotypical Russian thing ever.
Yeah. Makes sense.
Yeah.
Well, you ever see the commercial? And this is not true, but you ever see the commercial where they're like, America spent $17 million to have a pen that will write in space. And it's the Russian solution. The guy puts down a pencil.
Yeah.
But there's a reason why they did the pen. It's to how to control liquids.
Yeah, well, the pencil lead could ignite. I think the graphite is flammable in those conditions.
Right. There was a whole bunch of scientific.
Yeah.
It was one of those things where you don't. It's like statistics. You put them any way you want. It's one of those things. But it is very Russian. It works. Just like the T-72s or whatever at the end of the war, that Germany had to go up against. They would load them up with fuel right out of the plant.
Yeah.
And then they would just run them right into battle with no missiles. They would just crash them into the German tanks. So destroyed armored divisions. Russians are we're just better.
Yeah. What is it? The battle was the Battle of Kursk or something. That's sort of the story. Is that the I forget where I was going with it, but just it was like a story like that about these the crazy superior Russian or German tanks, but
Battle of Kursk.
Yeah.
German and Soviet forces on the Eastern Front near Kursk.
Yeah, I think that was the last line before they got to the Russian capital. But I had a point about the battle, but I forgot what it was.
Oh wow!
Listen,
that's not good.
Listen to the extra credits Battle of Kursk summary. It's pretty good. It's when they used to be good before they were pro censorship. But speaking of science, this is even more off topic. But
well, we could be talking about the science of war or the science of cinematography, or the science of like camera work, or the science of directing? Because it's a movie podcast.
This is the science of wood versus rocks.
Oh, okay.
So I don't know. I feel like the more and more Sam talks, he's he's definitely from California. He's definitely not from here because he's real slow, real slow talking. And he says everything like a question at the end. So
his mom's from the South.
Yeah,
yeah, probably.
Yeah, I guess that's true. But he's I feel like he likes to really think through things. But then the way he says it sometimes you kind of make fun of him. He's a little dopey or whatever, even though obviously it's not, just it's the way he talks, and it's kind of funny to tease him about it. But we're outside. I was breaking up a piece of furniture just to throw in the trash, and then there's a rock, and Sam got a piece of wood. He's like, "Dad, I'm going to use science to see if I can break a rock with a piece of wood." And I was like, okay, and he hit it a hook. I was like, "Doesn't break." I was like, "Well, that's science." I was like, "Well, here's a hammer. Try some metal on the rock." And they did. He was like, "It works." And I was like, "Yeah, it's harder. You got to hit it with something harder." But I just thought it was funny that was the thought to say. Like, I'm going to use science right now. I'm about to science right now, guys. So,
yeah. I forget what it's. I think it's called Survivor. It's by Chuck Palahniuk. It's a really weird story, but this lady, she's a realtor and steals dead people's jewelry. Anyway, she drops a giant diamond, and the guy they're on a Ferris wheel, and the guy gets real worried, oh, what if it gets in the gears? And she's like, diamond's hard, but it's still brittle. It'll just explode, you know?
Yeah.
It's a very I mean, I can't do it any justice, but the way the pages are written and everything, it's I guess it is or it can't be. And I'm not the guy that pulls out metaphors. No matter how tough something is, there's always a weakness.
Yeah.
Which
Patton's
weakness was his mouth.
Yeah. I saw several other movies recently that I thought so as well.
What? The weakness was the mouth?
The Joker. Did you see the Joker movie?
Yes.
So the Joker movie is called Playing with Fire, which is fine.
What's Playing with Fire?
It's that kids movie that's out now. It's John Cena. He's a fireman.
Oh, okay. Was it good?
It was pretty good. It was fine. It was fun.
Was John Cena funny?
No, not really.
He's very stiff, right?
Yeah, the parts that weren't when they weren't trying to be funny, it was a pretty good movie. Did you see the Joker movie though?
Yeah, I just told you I did.
Yeah,
I saw it opening night.
Yeah, it was great. It did make me feel bad when I was leaving the movie.
You feel bad for him.
Yeah,
but here's the thing.
Well, no, just as I just had a feeling of just feeling bad. I didn't feel bad for him. It wasn't oh, okay, the movie's over, I'm gonna go do it. I just felt bad at the end of the movie. It made me, I don't know, it put a weight on me to watch this movie.
Well, I was explaining to Ray, because I have a degree in psychology and everything, so you learn all about that. And they would never have him in a padded room and seeing a psychiatrist and everything, because even in 1980, they know it, because they explain the abuse and everything. It's a neurological disorder. It's not a psychiatric, psychological disorder. So they would have treated it much differently.
So is he actually schizophrenic then? Does he imagine those things?
Yeah. Well, I don't know if he's schizophrenic, but he definitely has a neurological disorder, which they would have had him on pretty strong medications to keep him from doing all that stuff.
It's kind of interesting because they had some things that were one of the things in that movie. I don't know if you noticed his shoulder. Was really weird.
Right. I think it's just because he's really weird.
So apparently the explanation is, Joaquin Phoenix just has congenital shoulder disorder. So that's why the character looked that way, and then he lost all that weight. It kind of sort of came out, and you could see him more.
Yeah, he was pretty gross.
But it's interesting because it really fits with the character, because what you can picture in your head from a character perspective is that he was beaten so badly as a child that a shoulder broke and healed poorly, and then brain trauma can cause that laughing disorder thing. So he would gotten beaten so bad that it screwed up his shoulder, and he has this disorder now from abuse. Sort of fits with his character. They don't explicitly say that, but
Yeah. Well, I've read like reviews where people go like they're completely wrong. They're like, oh, he's crazy and society's made him crazy and all this other stuff. He's not crazy. It's obviously a neurological disorder.
Yeah.
Like it's part of his brain. It's not. It There's no amount of therapy or psychiatry they can get that out of them. I'm surprised they didn't lobotomize him.
Yeah.
Like that like a chemical lobotomized or something like that, because like that amount of brain trauma that messes up your signals like that, like he would probably be institutionalized.
Yeah. It was really interesting, the movie, though. I mean obviously there's a lot to talk about with like the outcry around the movie and stuff. I think it's really interesting. It's the first R-rated movie that's probably going to make $1 billion, and that's even without a China release. Which I'm sure some corporate executive is going to do the math and they're going to edit it and re-release it in China at some point. But what I love is with all this China stuff going on, I feel like we haven't talked about it much since we've been podcasting a while, but all the China stuff with like Blizzard and the NBA and everything, and these American companies like kowtowing to China and like embarrassing themselves. Warner Brothers basically, they had to edit like a couple scenes to be released in China. They're like, fuck China. So like this is the movie.
What's it called? You know what I loved about that movie? So every iteration, other than I think Flashpoint, where what's Bruce Wayne's dad's name? Mr. Wayne?
Yeah, Mr. Wayne.
Yeah, Mr. Wayne. I can't think of his name. Yeah. He's been like a good guy. What's his name? Mr. Wayne. Yeah. We'll go with Mr. Wayne. He's just like a shitty white collar like billionaire, like doesn't actually care about the people. Like they put him, they put him, he's like not a good guy.
Yeah.
Every iteration you see, like he's like caring and he like builds a hospital and like he donates to the poor. Like people love him because like he's this great, philanthropist and everything. This one, like he's just a douchey politician, like rich politician. You're like, yeah, I kind of don't like him either.
Well, what was really interesting though about this movie is that like, and this was the controversy. The controversy was like, all these like incel, guys are gonna like, be empowered by the Joker.
Thomas Wayne.
Okay. Yeah. Which I know an incel was. I looked it up recently. It's a pretty interesting story if you know about it.
Oh, I know about it.
So anyway, so that was the thing. It's like, all these incel guys are going to be like, empowered by the Joker and go out and do all these crazy things. None of that happened because that's not how real life works.
The Joker's not an incel.
Yeah, I mean, no, he is though because that his relationship with that woman was imaginary.
No, he's not an incel. I don't think he has the capacity.
Maybe not.
To have a sexual relationship.
Yeah.
I think he just wanted to be loved. It's not about having.
But he imagines like heavily making out with that woman. So I mean that's sexual.
Yeah, but he's not an incel. He's not. I don't think that consciousness of him thinking like, oh, I'm celibate because I want to be, because women don't like me. He's celibate because he doesn't have a functioning relationship, and he knows he can't have a functioning relationship with someone.
I don't think he does because he imagines having that relationship.
He imagines, but he knows he can't.
I don't think. Do you think he knows he can't?
I think he hasn't had a healthy relationship ever.
Well, even if he knows he can't, I guess there's like the original meaning of incel was just someone who was unattractive and couldn't have sex with other people because they couldn't. And then there's like now like hate group incel, which is like hating women and hating like men who are successful with women because they won't sleep with you. Yeah. So hating chads, yeah. So there's like all that stuff. We're trying to get our first video demonetized on YouTube for in the future when we have hundreds of thousands of subscribers and have monetized videos. This one won't be.
No. Here's the thing. We only have sound, so it's okay.
Yeah. But yeah. So anywho, so So I forgot my point was going to be about. I just wanted to bring up the incels because I learned what they were recently, and it's a really stupid group of people. But I guess we're chats.
Yeah.
But sorry for our incel listeners.
Well, it's involuntarily celibate.
Yeah. And the other thing that's interesting was that, so in reading about the incels and following the Wikipedia links, you know what vegetarian men are?
What?
So apparently it's, and I don't know how big this really is. I read one article on Wikipedia and one unrelated article on this, so this is my entire knowledge of this. So some of these facts could not be 100% accurate, despite them being on Wikipedia. But apparently it's, I mean, not like an official movement, but like a group of like sort of men in Japan that are sort of over the traditional, because I guess in Japan, the family structure and like your work career are so tied in with like sexuality and stuff too, that there's this group of men that just say fuck it, and like they don't want to have a full-time career, and they don't care about having sex with women, and they're just fuck it, we're just so they're like voluntary celibates basically, and it's apparently to the point that it's becoming a birth rate issue.
Oh yeah, definitely.
But
there are couples there that they work,
yeah,
go home, play video games,
yeah,
and like years pass, and that's their entire relationship.
Yeah, but the most interesting part about it, and you probably will find this interesting because you probably don't know the singer, but there was so when we were growing up, my sister was into J-pop, and there's a singer Gact who's like they're all very androgynous. You know, so he's this guy, and some of his songs are pretty awesome. I mean, not being able to speak Japanese, but I do like some of his songs, just from knowing them from when I was younger. But super androgynous guy. Had a concert a few years back, only for men, to try to reaffirm their sexuality and start having sex with women again, so we could make more babies.
Oh, really?
Yeah. which just like if you look up a picture of the guy, it's pretty funny. That he's the bastion of manliness left in Japan.
Oh, that's not good.
Yeah, but plus there's all those Japanese women. Like, how are you not trying to hit that?
Well, not everybody's attracted to Japanese women.
I guess.
Yeah.
Some people are incels.
Yeah, I don't believe at all that Joker was an incel.
Yeah.
I don't think he's like thought of it. There's a consciousness.
I'm trying to backtrack to my point. So I was saying about all the incel people that are being empowered by it.
You know who wasn't an incel?
Who's that?
Omar Bradley and George Patton.
Omar Bradley got all the pussy though.
Yeah, they talked about writing their wives and everything. Yeah. The entire movie.
Yeah. How do you feel about the OK Boomer meme?
Oh yeah, I don't care at all about it. If people are getting mad, whether they be called boomers or not, I don't give a shit.
Well, I like the extension now of the OK Boomer meme, which is it's like a thing, and then it's like OK Boomer, and then it's like a boomer person, and it's like all these kids nowadays are so sensitive, and a bunch of pussies nowadays, and then it's like oh, you can't call me a boomer, that's hate speech.
Yeah.
So that's kind of funny, but fucking Zoomers. That's the current generation.
But you know who would also hate boomers? George Patton, because he would be a boomer's dad.
Yeah, he would. Yeah. He would be.
Did you know George Patton's son,
yeah,
George Patton the Fourth, I think,
yeah,
was also a general throughout Korea, and I think maybe Vietnam.
That's like the whole like Teddy Roosevelt side of the Roosevelt family. They're all like that.
Teddy Roosevelt's son stormed Normandy with like a cane.
Yeah. We should do this every week where I just get off topic. You try to keep bringing me back on. That's what people want to
hear. So do you have anything else to say about the movie?
No, I don't think so.
Oh, okay.
Oh, I saw the movie Silent Hill.
Oh my God. Thanks for listening to this week's Holy Costa. I hope you enjoyed it. I'm Jay for Kev.
What are we talking about next week?
I don't know.
Next week's going to be on topic. Really listen to next week.
All right, hold on.
It's going to be great.
Let's see what we're doing next week.
Because we're going to watch it this week, like within the next few days. It's going to be fresh in my mind. We're going to talk about it. It's going to be great. I'm going to have a lot of salient points about this movie.
Giant from 1956.
What's that about? I didn't know that.
Yeah, me either. Hold on.
What's that about? This is a bonus podcast. It's gonna be like fucking Bringing Up Baby. It's gonna be the Bringing Up Baby of like the second 10% of the list.
All right. So, it's Rock Hudson.
Okay.
Wealthy Texas rancher Bick Benedict, Rock Hudson, shakes things up at home when he returns from a trip from East Coast with a love interest the refined Leslie Linton, Elizabeth Taylor.
Okay.
Bick and Leslie get married, but she clashes with his sister, Luz, Mercedes McCambridge, and wins the admiration of the ambitious young Jet Rink, played by James Dean. Bick and Jet.
A lot of big stars in this one.
Yeah, Bick and Jet form a tense rivalry that continues to surface as the years pass and fortunes change in the sweeping drama. Wow, that actually sounds pretty good. I mean, the names are like hilarious, but
who's the old actress I like that we saw a couple of movies ago?
Hepburn?
Yeah, which one though?
Audrey Hepburn.
I like Audrey Hepburn.
Yeah, I think so. Did you know that they're doing a James Dean movie?
Really?
He's going to be in the movie through CGI.
He makes the sausage.
I don't know what that means.
Jimmy Dean.
No. Did you know he's only in
he's not in many movies, right?
He's in 3 movies, I'm pretty sure.
Yeah, he like died young or something, right?
Yeah, East of Eden, Rebel Without a Cause, and Giant.
Okay, interesting.
Yeah. So it's gonna be our first James Dean movie.
Nice. And
our first Rock Hudson movie.
Nice.
Yeah. So I'm Jay for Kev. Thanks for listening to this week's Whole Week Costa. This is Bonus Pods.
Yeah. This is pretty fun. It's only if you don't want serious movie discussion this week. But we warned them up front.